So you chose to be a tank, but now you're struggling to complete content as a tank in New World. I'll take a guess that you are either just starting a character or Thorpe is giving you a brutal beatdown in the depths and you are struggling to carry your group through. This guide will be a quick and concise, to the point explanation of how to be a better tank. Tanking is a fun role, but in addition to the healer role, it is one of the roles that the moment you fail, the whole expedition fails. So let's dive in, cover a few different points to make you a better tank. And if you have any additional advice you would like to add, leave it in the comments down below so other people can benefit as well. Let's help one another out. As a tank, it is your job to be the frontline defense of your party. It is your job to take massive amounts of damage that would kill any of the other members in your party. Let's break down this advice into two sections. Section 1 is things that you should do before you leave the town and begin your adventure. And section 2 is mechanics that you should do or know while you are tanking. For section 1, prepping, armor is usually going to be the first subject that people talk about when tanking. And that's because it's the easiest and it's a good starting point. When you are trying to tank, I would recommend you come into the filters section and then select Grit Ward. Click apply and then be sure to select can use and can afford so that you're not getting very expensive or gear that you can't afford. Come through and buy a heavy piece of gear for each of your slots at the highest possible gear score that you can equip and afford. This will ensure your physical and elemental armor is high. You'll also be receiving as high of attributes as possible, and overall your stats will be better. You can also refine down further to add the attribute points that you would like to be on the equipment. After you select your gear, now you should choose your weapon. Clear out the Grit Ward perk, and now you want to choose two perks, Despised and Hated. What these two perks do is provide you with more threat generation. You'll notice on my currently equipped sword, I have a Carnelian gem in, which we will talk about in a moment, that generates 350% more threat. Meanwhile, on this specific piece of gear, I can generate 239% threat just from the perk on the gear. Of course, as you go lower in gear score, the percentage will be lower, but that should scale along with the content, and being able to even produce 100% more threat is wonderful. You should probably be running sword and shield, at least as your primary, so be sure to pick up one that provides you with the most threat possible before even equipping a new gem. Next though, we will go ahead and jump into the refined resources section and choose cut gemstones. Be sure to clear out all of the filters that you previously applied. If you are able to cut your own gems, then choose the raw gem section, but for this I'm just going to choose a cut gem. The three gems that we are going to look for in this build are Carnelian gems, Onyx gems, and Opal gems. Let's start with the Carnelian gem. As you can see, when we equip this to our weapon, we will generate 250% more threat. If you are already generating a substantial amount of threat on your weapon, feel free to equip another gem if you would like. But for this guide, I would still recommend generating as much threat as possible so that you can maintain aggro on all of the mobs. For the next gem, we will talk about Onyx. A cut Onyx gem, when equipped to a piece of armor, provides you with 1.5% physical damage absorption for every gem. I would recommend putting this on all of your pieces of armor. The last gem is in Opal, and this provides you with elemental damage absorption. I would recommend putting one of these on each of your pieces of jewelry. This combination will provide you with a good amount of physical and elemental damage absorption. Now that we've talked about your equipable gear, let's talk about consumables. I think it's pretty obvious to say that everybody should have healing potions as well as some healing food equipped. But in addition to that, buying defensive absorption potions for the specific type of damage you are going up against is a wonderful thing to add as a tank. For instance, if you're trying to complete the depths, using a strong corrupted ward potion is going to provide you with damage absorption from all sources of corrupted damage by 5%. It may not seem like a lot, but that can turn the tide of war. Moving on to the next step, Corrupted tinctures and blight tinctures could be important based on the expedition that you are doing. Again, in the depths, you could definitely benefit from some corruption tinctures. As a tank, weapon coatings aren't as important, but if you are struggling with maintaining aggro on the mobs, giving yourself a corrupted coating on your sword when you are running the depths is a wonderful way to increase your damage and possibly maintain threat. Enchantment consumables can be important as well, such as a honing stone to increase your damage, an oak flesh bomb in order to increase your damage absorption, an incense to increase your resistance to afflictions, and a gemstone dust in order to increase your elemental damage absorption. Lastly, we'll touch on the attribute foods. Taking a constitution food to give yourself more health, or eating some strength food to increase your damage can definitely help when you're struggling on some more difficult content. As a note on your weapons, I tend to favor sword and shield for my primary weapon so that you can block, but there's an argument that the flail could be a good choice as well. As far as secondary goes, it is generally accepted that warhammers are a good secondary due to their ability to provide crowd control, but the great sword and the great axe are also good alternatives. If you feel I've given you value so far, I would greatly appreciate a like. And if you have anything you want to add, comment down below. On your way back up, be sure to hit that subscribe button. For the next section, we will discuss your actual role as a tank. And honestly, it is less intense than the entire other section. And that is because prep is very important. Honestly, I would say it's more important than actually doing the role of a tank. And that is because your job as a tank is to draw the attention of everything else. You do not have to provide damage, at least more than what is required to maintain aggro, but that is where Carnelian gems and the perks on your armor will come in to help. And you will need to do your best to help your healer keep you alive by dodging damage or blocking damage, which you won't see me do very much in the Imperium Forge footage that is showing here, but that's because I'm pretty geared out and I didn't feel like I needed to block, but you might need to. I'll show some footage I have of a new character that I made fighting against Thorpe in the beginning, and you will see me using my shield to block his attacks. Just note that every block requires stamina, and if he is able to break your stamina, you are now placed in a position where you cannot dodge or block. In higher content, usually spells death. So be sure to hold block while he's attacking and let go the moment you have a chance to let your stamina come back. Learning the boss's attacks and rotations is very important as a tank. And sometimes you can just get lucky and skin by, but in higher content, you will need to know the boss's attacks. This will help your healer out a ton. In the end, your goal is to keep aggro on the boss or the mobs and stay alive. If you can take it one step further though, this will help your team out and you as well. And that is by drawing the attention of the boss in a way that places them between you and your DPS team. This lets your DPS get backstabs off, which can greatly increase their damage, thus killing the boss faster. Make sure you're drinking potions or eating food as you go, and refresh any of the buffs, weapon coatings, tinctures, or damage resist potions that you need to. It should be stated as well that trophies can help when it comes to fighting certain enemy types, but for the most part, I would concentrate on the things that we've discussed so far and not worry too much on those. The last mechanical thing I will discuss very briefly is invulnerability frames, or iframes as people call it. When you dodge, there is about 17 frames, at least that's the general consensus of what I've heard, where you are invulnerable while you move. It is key to learning how to use this invulnerability frame to dodge through the boss's attacks. Being able to do this at key moments to dodge large attacks by the boss can make or break an expedition run. I'll try to make a more in-depth video on this concept later, but for now, I'll show a quick clip of it here against Thorpe, where you can see me dodging through his attack in the very beginning intro of the game. And really that's it. I tried to keep it as basic as possible. I know there's a lot more strategies and in-depth things that can go into being a tank, but I wanted to keep this as beginner friendly as possible. As you continue to play through the game, you'll definitely want to learn boss patterns, and other things like that, but keeping it relatively simple is what I wanted to do with this guide. Just get your feet wet and learn by doing. If you like this video, check out more videos in my New World playlist, and if you're a beginner, check out my fresh start guide to get the absolute best start when you first start playing New World Aeternum. I look forward to seeing everybody in the game.